Hey everybody, how's it going? John Boy back with another episode of the gardening vlog on the Gardening and Gaming Goober. And today we're finally going to be able to get some of our stuff started outside. The weather's warming up a little bit, although the sun's not quite shining all that bright right now. It is a little bit of an overcast day. But we're getting close to April. Easter's coming up and the weather's starting to warm up. Got to start thinking about getting those plants outdoors and getting everything prepared out there. Now, as you remember, I pointed out that I had a tree come down here over the winter time with a lot of the rain, ice, and snow that we had. So that's my number one step today is I need to start getting this thing cleaned up. I think the way I'm going to do it, I'm going to start by cleaning off some of the small branches with a set of trimmers. And then I'll go on from there. I'll get the chainsaw out and I'll cut the rest of it up. So let's get this cleanup done. Okay, well, did as much as I could do with the hand choppers, hand loppers, whatever you want to call them. So now, to get the rest of this done, oh my gosh, shut up in the background, whatever you're chopping up. I don't know if you can hear that or not. Loud freaking machine just started. I had to get my chainsaw out and get the rest of this cut out, so let's go get that bad boy and let's start chopping. Okay, well, welcome back, and as you can see behind me right here, that tree branch is still here. I didn't get a chance to cut it down. And if you know anything about the weather in the Northeast, we had a nor'easter blow through here later in the afternoon when I was actually cutting that down last time. And where we were supposed to only get about an inch or two of snow, according to our local weatherman, we got about a foot. So unfortunately, I wasn't able to get that cut down. Don't worry. I'll get it cut down once it's time to get this raised bed going. But today's episode, other than the updates and stuff I did earlier, it is about building the raised bed. So if you want to follow along and you're going to build the same type of raised bed that I am, right here I'm going to put a list of the stuff that you're going to need. What you're going to need to follow along and build the exact same raised bed to make it 4 foot by 8 foot, 10 inches high, and with a 5 foot enclosure is the following. You're going to need 3 pieces of 8 foot long by 10 inches high, and I'm going with 2-inch thick boards just to make it a little thicker, easier to screw those screws and stuff into when we get to that point. You're also going to need 11 3/4 inch PVC pipes, 10 foot long each of those. And you're going to need, I'm going to use 3.5 or 4-inch screws, depending on what I got laying around the house in order to screw the boards together. And you're probably going to want some 1.5-inch screws to put the poles that you're going to screw into the boards. And speaking of those poles, you're going to need something big enough to put that 3/4 inch PVC pipe in. I was lucky enough to find a very short piece that I was able to cut up into the sizes that I needed. And I believe that pipe is about 1.25 inch PVC pipe. So let's get the building here and let's see how this is going to work and how everything's going to go together. It's actually quite simple. Oh, and if you remember in one of my earlier episodes, chicken wire, that 1-inch hexagonal chicken wire, enough to wrap around all the enclosure pieces. And when we put the dirt in, we're actually going to put chicken wire underneath of it so that we can make sure that any of the burrowing animals don't get under the wood and up and into your garden. So let's get started and get these boards screwed together. Okay everybody, here's just a quick update on the plants and what's going on. If I back up here just a little bit, and sorry for the mess in my garage if you happen to see all of it, because I'm working in confined spaces. But there's a grow light, and I know that's a weird angle to look at, sorry. I have a 4-foot grow light. My grow light is made by a company called Purple Rain. I don't know if you're going to be able to see that in the video, but it's right here if you can. I know there's some white, it's kind of blurring it out in the background. But purple, P-U-R-P-L-E, rain, R-E-I-G-N. I found out that that company supposedly makes some of the best, closest to natural daylight grow lights, so that's why I chose Purple Rain. What you may see here that's a little different from the last time I showed you guys, I do have a heat mat. I did go and purchase a heat mat because none of the pepper plants were coming up. If you remember in my picture there in the video, at the end of the last video, I showed that the broccoli, which I know you see some missing, but the broccoli are these here, these 2 rows. They really took off. I don't know why, but I mean, man, they had just gone insane. So I will show you over here. I had to transfer some of them into the cups, but I may have transferred them a little too early. Again, mistakes made. You can see they were getting really long and stringy, but during the transfer process, you can see like I lost a leaf there. You can see that like in this one that the roots are all becoming super thin. I think they're dying off. And if I come up and over the top here, like in this one, you can see that a lot of the roots here are, yeah, this one. See how a lot of the stems, the little stems are like snapped? Yeah. I don't know if those plants are going to survive. I may have made a mistake and transplanted those too early. But that's why you plant extra. And I'll give you a quick little tour here of what we still have in our seed tray. Again, these 2 rows here were broccoli, along with these last 2 up here are broccoli. And then down here I have 2 of the black tomato that I'm planting, the black Versage tomatoes. And then this whole row leading all the way up here are the Snow Fairy tomatoes. Now, the soil was way too cold. This is the thermostat probe that, if you actually look in here, the jalapenos are growing up against that thermostat probe. So weird. But these are all of the peppers that I have. As you can see, we got 2 jalapenos growing here. If we come up a little bit, we got 2 more jalapenos sprouting there, although I don't know if I'm going to be able to use this one. I'll have to see if how that works with the thermostat probe, or if maybe another one doesn't work, maybe I'll move where the probe's location is. Over here, we got 1 little one sprouting. Where are we at? Right there. And we have another little one sprouting right there. And I can't remember what these ones were. I don't have my paper on me at the moment. We got 1 that actually came up really nice. I'm pretty sure that's habanero, if I remember. And if we come over the top, there's 1 right. Let's zoom in. Right there. Also growing. Yeah, so the peppers, the soil was like 61 degrees whenever I checked the soil temperature. And that's way too cold for the peppers. That's why the peppers weren't sprouting. So I got a heat mat that I purchased. It's an Apollo heat mat. And I have it set for about, to keep it at a temperature between 74 and 76 degrees, because that's a good temperature for peppers to grow at. And tomatoes also like that temperature too. Okay, that's the update for the plants. Okay, so I got 2 of my boards put together. I got my 8-foot piece coming this way. I got my 4-foot piece coming this way. I put some angle clamps on here to hold the boards in place nice and steady, because what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be drilling probably 4 pilot holes into the board here, going directly into the middle of the 4-foot board, and then I'm going to use, ended up finding some 4-inch exterior screws in order to hold this together so that these screws don't rust. Now, a key word of advice to help you with a little bit of time and effort, since I did buy these in 3 8-foot sections, most of your local hardware stores will give you 1 single cut for free. So I had them cut the 8-foot long board exactly in the middle. They'll measure the whole thing. It actually ends up being about 8 foot and like 4 inches or something like that. It was, I don't know why. But I said, yeah, just cut it so that I got 2 exact equal pieces. And then you'll repeat this process on all 4 corners. And that'll pretty much be your raised bed at that point. It'll be built. It's not, like I said, it's simple. Just a couple of angles to put together. And, you know, have a little fun with it while you're at it. So, let me see. If I'm going to do 4, so probably like 1, 2, 3, and 4. So, and I'm not very good at keeping my arms very straight. I better crank this thing up to drilling mode. Otherwise, it's just going to click and stop. Let's hope I don't split the board. Well, I'm through one board. And I don't see any holes, so that's a good sign. Now, you don't have to use this, but I actually have an impact hammer drill, and that's what I plan on using to put these screws in, because I want these things to set nice and tight in here. So I'm going to take myself one of my 4-inch exterior screws. Again, this will be most of the way in. Now, my drill bits aren't long enough to go the full 4 inches. If you see, even if we put it, you know, how it went all the way in, you know, we're still about 1.5 inches or so short. So that's why I wanted the impact drill to help me get through that. Now, the hole you want to drill, I forgot to mention, the thickness of your screw that you're going to use, you want to be just a little less. So, you know, you'll see I can't push that in there with my hand. It just barely fits. So let's go ahead and get this started. And that's why I like impact drills. So again, we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. I'll get these other ones done on this side, and I'll come back and show you how it looks like once this side is done. Okay, so as you can see, I got all 4 of them in there. Let me zoom in here just a little so I can show you guys. We got 1, 2, 3, and 4. All 4 of them in there. Now, I just have to repeat this on the other 4 sides. Yay! So let me go do that. I'll show you the box when it's done, and then we'll move on to building the enclosure. Okay, well, that didn't take too long. Maybe about 15-20 minutes to do. Although it did take me longer because I had to change out some batteries on my drills. The ones I had in there died on both of them, unfortunately. So it did take me a little bit of extra time to go find my other batteries. But we have one complete and solid 4-sided raised bed, ready to go in the yard if that's all you're going to do at this point. I mean, if you don't have any critters and maybe you have in a fenced-in yard, all you have to do is fill this in with some dirt and you're ready to go. But unfortunately, like I said before, I have deer, raccoons, groundhogs, squirrels, birds, and everything else. And we're going to need to get an enclosure on this thing. So that's the next step. Let's get this enclosure pieces started and installed. Okay, so the next step we have to do is get the frame that we built, the raised bed, ready to have the fence put on. Like I said, I'm using 1/4 inch, oh, here we go. I'm using 1/4 inch PVC pipe. These I cut to about 2 inches in length. I figured that should be big enough. Maybe I could have went a little larger, but I think 2 inches on this will be big enough. Just so you know, this length running this way is my 8-foot section, and this length running this way is my 4-foot section. We're going to be installing one on each of the corners like this here. And this will actually be the fence post where we put the fence post in for the 4-foot section. Now, you can't really put 2 pipes on top of one another to run the 8-foot section. So what we're actually going to do for that is put the other piece right beside it like this. This will be covering the 8-foot section. So this fence actually isn't going to be 8 foot long. It's going to be, you know, about 2 or 3 inches shorter than the 8-foot. And this will actually be the 4-foot coming across this way. What I'm going to do for each of these 2-inch pipes that I cut, we're going to drill two larger holes on this side so that we can get our drill bit in. And then on the inside here, we're going to drill a smaller hole, just barely big enough for the screw to get started, like a really, really tiny hole. Just so we don't split this plastic whenever we're drilling the, or putting the screws in that are going to hold it. I think 2 screws should be enough Also, we're going to have, like I said, these double upsets in all 4 of the corners, but to run the full 8-foot length, that would be too much bow. I think too much weight for a 3/4 inch pipe. So actually at the middle point, at the 4-foot point of the 8-foot length board, we're going to put another one of these in there. So that'll just be floating kind of like this on the board. And again, since we're not going to have a second way to screw it in or anything to attach it to, we'll just drill the 2 holes, the 2 big holes to get our drill bit in, and or our screw bit in, and then 2 small holes here in order to screw into the board. Again, these are just for stability to keep them upright. Not really so much for preventing it from bending over, although this will help because I will be cutting 3/4 inch length pieces that will go from the top here where the hole goes in. We'll have the fence running this way, and then from this point all the way to the ground, the 10 inches, we'll have that where it slides down in, so that when you have any wind or animals and stuff that maybe push up against it, it's going to have some give, but it will still be able to support it through these and through the full length, so that the animal doesn't like get up on it and try and lift it. Because if you just did a 2-inch little thing, for your pole going down in, then you could possibly have an animal, grab onto your cage, lift it up, then they get underneath of it, they knock it over, and they're into your garden eating everything up. So let's get to making a bunch of holes in these. Oh yeah, by the way, you'll need 10 of these. Okay, so the screws I'm going to be using are these screws. Now, I'm not sure if they're 1.5 or 1.25. I just know I had a big container of them sitting around, and I have enough of them to do what I need for my project. But I'll tell you the reason why I chose these. If you look at the board, if I was to just stick this screw into the board, you can see that the tip of it would actually stick out the other side. But once I put it in with the PVC pipe, it'll be close to the other end, but it should not puncture it all the way. So that's a good screw. It'll give it a nice, good firm support. It'll be nice and tight into the wood. Now, I'm going to be using my drill only for this part. Reason being, I don't need that impact drill to be cracking this plastic whenever we're putting the stuff in. And like I said, this is the drill bit that I'm going to be using, or screwdriver bit, whatever you want to call it, in the screw, or in my drill whenever I put the screw in. So I went and I found, looking at the tip, something that is about the same thickness. So that should be give a nice good opening. But I'm only going to go through the first part. Like I said, I'm only going to go through this front part twice. Once about here and once about here to put my 2 screws in. Once I put those holes in, I'm going to come back. I'm going to put this tiny little bit into there, because as you can see, compared to the end or the thickness of the screw, I mean, you can't even see it. Like if I put it back to back like that, you can't even see my drill bit. It'll give enough of an opening to let this go through without cracking the plastic, and easy enough that it'll screw into the board still also. So I'm going to go ahead and get started with this, putting the holes in this first, and then we'll get one of these installed on the board. And then, like I said, we'll just have to repeat it 10 times around. You know, I'm looking at this now, and I'm thinking, that's not going to be big enough. Look, can't get it to go. Let's see if I can show you here. That ain't going to go in. I got to go get a bigger bit. Well, unfortunately, I only got this other big honking bit. That's really big. I'm hoping when I screw down into this that I don't break the plastic. Let's find out. Wow, that made a mess. Well, that's one. Let's hope this plastic doesn't break. I didn't make it too weak. Well, that's two. I'm making a mess. Well, let's see. Success. That's what we were looking for. Awesome. Now, we just have to change the bits and put a tiny hole through the other side. Okay. Well, you can see the hole is right here. And what I plan on doing is just going right in like this and drilling out the other side. But I gotta make sure I don't put it or hold it like this, because I'll put it right through my hand. And I can't put it down here on the cement because I'll be drilling into my cement. And I don't want to put holes in my concrete or any marks. So I might be doing something a little stupid here. But I'm actually going to attempt to hold this down low and drill straight through. Or as straight through as I can. Let's hope I don't hit myself. I don't think I will. There we go. That worked. Now, what you should do, and I'll tell you to be safe, don't do what I did there. What you should do is get yourself a piece of board, a scrap piece of board, and put it on the ground. And then put your thing like this, and then drill down through here and in through your plastic and into that scrap piece of board. So don't do it like I did. Or if you do, be very careful. But it's not my fault, I'm telling you, don't do it like I did. Let's get this other hole drilled here and get this installed. Okay, something I didn't consider whenever I did this, but I got lucky. You gotta make sure you drill the holes big enough that the screws you're gonna use are gonna fit inside of it. Lucky for me, they did. Another lucky thing is the size of the screws actually fit perfectly right where the little tips of the holes, so I was able to get them started, and as you can see, they're not going to move out of there. So I can get my thing nice, positioned exactly where I want it before I put my screws in. So we're going to line this up so it's even with the top of your board. Got my extended piece. Oh, almost forgot. Don't need to be killing it. If you have an adjuster piece like I have, make sure you set it low. We don't need these things going right through the plastic and into the board also. In fact, I might take it a little lower and start it on 6. So again, you're going to line that up. And that looks to be about good. Okay, still looks good. Come down and do the second one. Some thick wood. And there we go. That thing ain't going anywhere. Well, that's one done. Let me go ahead and get these other 9 installed, and I'll hit you back up in a little bit. Okay, so we got all 10 of these installed. Like I said, I measured out the board. The board ended up being about 8 foot and a half inch. So I measured it 4 foot and a quarter inch and just put that one in the middle. Very easy to install these. Didn't have any problems. Didn't even have to drill any pilot holes, which is nice, since those screws were being held inside each of these posts on their own. That made it nice and easy, so then you could use one hand to hold the pipe and the other hand to screw in. The next thing you need to do, as we talked about, was taking the 3/4 inch pipes that were 10 foot long, and you're going to want to cut 5 of those into 5 foot lengths, so you end up having 10 pieces that are 5 foot long. And take the other 6 and cut those into 4 foot lengths, and you'll have 12 of those. But don't throw your other 2 foot pieces away, because we're going to use those to go down into these holes and down into the ground and help support these. So you'll also need some 2 T-pieces, a bunch of 90-degree angles, and a T pieces. Need some zip ties for the chicken wire to go onto, and of course to glue everything together you're going to want some PVC cement. You don't have to cement these together. Probably will hold it, but I'm going to be extra safe and just make sure that I put the cement on. I just don't want this thing falling apart and having any animals, but I believe the chicken wire zip tied on should be tight enough to hold it. That's your choice, however you want to do it. Now I'm going to show you over here real quick how I'm going to measure everything out. Now I did cut these into 4-foot sections for the cross beams, but what you want to do is you want to take your 10-foot, or I mean your one of your tees and hook it on, and that piece is ready to go. We already know that this is the length and this is how far that pole is going to go in. But if we come over here and look at our 4-foot, guess what? That goes a little bit further over than what we needed. Depending on the length and the size of the boards that you're using, it may not measure exactly 4 foot. So instead of putting the tees on and measuring everything, I knew it was going to be, less than the 4-foot section. So I just went ahead, and what we'll do is we'll take another one of the tees, put it on, measure the post, cut this, and then we'll glue that together. That way you have a nice secure bottom, and you want to start with your bottom base and get these tees done. So that way when you put your 5-foot section up here, coming out of this piece, run it up to wherever you're going to, and you run the other one up on the other side, it'd be a lot easier to just put your 90 on, measure across the top, the distance the same, and then make that cut, so you have 2 pieces cut the same length. That'll give you a nice square enclosure piece. So gonna go get those cut, and I'll show you how we're gonna build one piece, and then you're just gonna repeat that 4 times over. So let's go and get these pieces cut, and I'll get back with you here in just a minute. Okay, well, I got my first piece cut, and before you do anything else, always double check. They say measure twice, cut once, and even at that, it doesn't always work all the time. But I went ahead, cut my 2 pieces, got my 5-foot sections, didn't glue anything together, just want to make sure everything fits. So let's take a look. If I go ahead and I drop these into the holes, that one fits, that one drops in. You know what, I got lucky. First cut, first fit, everything works. Now, the next thing that we're going to need to do is get that some stability by putting the pipes down here. Let me move that out of the way. Now you remember that extra 2 foot of pipe that you had that I told you to make sure you saved? That's where this is going to come in handy. The next thing you're going to want to do, where we put these pipes on, we need to help make it stable for the height. Because if you just did it real short, as you can see, this thing's going to rock and roll, may fall out, or like I said, if you get some type of an animal like a raccoon or something and it gets its claws into your chicken wire, it can lift it up, your fence falls over, and they eat all your vegetables. So that's why I'm sending this thing all the way to the ground. What you're going to do is take this extra 2 foot piece, go right to the very top of your pole, and put a little mark there, and that's where you're going to cut it. Then all you have to do is attach that to the 2 pieces that you did, and you got one side done. You're going to repeat the same process for the 4-foot side. The only difference is when you get to the middle of the 4-foot side, if you remember in the video just a couple of minutes ago, I showed that there was a plus in the supplies, and there was 2 of them. And that's where this is going to come in handy. When you reach the middle part, where I had that single piece to go down, you're going to put a plus symbol connector right there in the middle. And again, you'll do the same thing. One piece will go down here, one going to the left, one going to the right on the 8-foot side, and then of course your 5-foot piece going up. So all I have to do is keep repeating this step over and over to get these 4 sides done. And we'll take a look without the chicken wire. I'm not going to put the chicken wire on today. All you have to do is line the chicken wire up and zip tie it on. And that's going to take a while because I need to get metal cutters and cut all that out. And I don't think you want to watch a half hour of me cutting wire. But I'll show you that finished product in the next video once I do wrap it with chicken wire. But let me go ahead, finish all 4 of these sides, and I'll at least be able to show you a basic frame of what you're dealing with before we end this video. Okay, well, we got all 4 walls up. Well, 4 sides up. I guess they're really not walls. And this thing's pretty sturdy. Going left and right, front and back, nothing's going to do it. And I'm having trouble lifting this thing up, so I don't think any animal is going to get underneath of it to lift the whole thing up and out. The PVC material, in my opinion, made a very good material to build this out of. It was easy to cut, wasn't very expensive. Like I said, I showed you the list of expenses and the materials that I bought, and all in all, I think I'm pretty happy with this. I know it'll get even more sturdier once I put the chicken wire on. And once we get zip ties all the way to the top and bottom, I'm thinking maybe 3 to 4 per side. just have to see. It'll be trial and error once we get the chicken wire on. You know, I'll put one at the top, one at the bottom, one in the middle. If it doesn't seem like it's sturdy enough, then I'll just move one here and here. Anyways, I thank you all for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, hit that like button. If you really enjoyed it, hit that subscribe button. If you have any questions or comments you'd like to leave me, please feel free to leave them in the comment field below. And I try to do my best to answer questions as soon as I can. I thank you all for watching and have yourselves a good day.